So Netivot Shalom Sefer Bereshit, and the Parsha is Vaishlach, right? So Yaakov is sending messengers or angels to Esav, right? This is like the big meeting with his brother. So there is a part when Yaakov goes and everybody crossing the river, and he's going back to take, and Rashi explained, like he forgot, or he bringing like small jugs of oil, pachim ktanim, and then he had a fight with an angel, right? V'yivater Yaakov levado, right? We know there is a song, right? V'yivater Yaakov levado ve'avek ish imo, right? And a man was fighting with him. So v'yavek is to wrestler and also dust, right? And ish, a man with him until dawn, right? V'yivater Yaakov levado ve'avek ish imo ad alot hashachar. V'yar ki lo yachalo, right? And that whoever man that was fighting with him, he noticed that he could not overcome, he could not conquer Yaakov. Right? So he was punching, he was doing something. Basically, it says here that he was touching his thigh, and Yaakov was limping, right? So in the Gemara Chulin says, like while they were fighting, they were bringing up dust that reached until the Kisei HaKavod of Hashem, right? Until the throne. And also said in Zohar HaKadosh. Okay, same thing. We need to explain the meaning. How is it possible, right? That two persons are fighting here and the dust is actually going up all the way to heaven. Also, and it says, like why the Torah needs to say that the man that was wrestling with Yaakov, he hurt his thigh. We already said at the beginning, right? That they were fighting, they were struggling. Why do you need to repeat? Okay, there are many questions over here, right? We can say, according to what our sages are saying, Bereshit Rabbah, that man, who was that man? Shuaya Sarosh el Esav, he was the Sar, the minister of Esav, that he was fighting against Yaakov, and his goal was to knock him down from his levels. Why? As long as Yaakov holding to his levels, his midot, Esav cannot harm him. So according to that, we need to explain that he wanted at least to put dust in him, to make him dirty. Right? But we know that this is a spiritual thing, so it's not literally dust. So what does it mean? What's this dust mean? Our sage says, right, so I don't know if you ever learned that before, but there is a rebate, right, interest. When somebody lending money, let's say he lending 100 and he wants back 110, this 10 is interest and it's forbidden, but there is something that called avak rebate, like dust of rebate of interest. It's not exactly, let's say that you're lending somebody 100 and you have a tree and you pick up some fruits. That could be an interest. Basically, Chazal said this is interest. But the other scenario that it could be like the dust, it's in the gray area. So he said the angel wanted to give him at least lashon avak ribit, avak shvi'it, avak lashon hara, like the dust of interest, dust of shmita, and dust of evil tan, lashon hara, which are not really isurim, it's not really something forbid, but it's in the gray area. This is what the man that was fighting with him, because he knew that the big things, right, like Baruch Hashem, today nobody can tell us, turn on the light on Shabbat or drive the car with no reason. We are not going to even to think about it. But talking about work, talking about this, about that, that's the avak. So that man that was struggling with Yaakov, he understood that he could not really overcome on the Isurim, and therefore he wanted to put that dust in his spiritual level. And according to that, we should say that our sages says, this is the Elu Avak at Kisei HaKavod, which is the Kisei HaKavod, the throne, that the dust that came all the way up to the Kisei HaKavod, it's a hint on the emuna, on the faith. And that man, that sar, right, or angel, wanted to put again dust in Yaakov Avinu faith, Rachmana litzlan, to shake
What
his
is that, like doubt?
doubt, yeah, inclarity, whatever.
It's like Amalek.
Yeah. He wanted to shake
Wait,
his
he is
clarity.
Amalek.
It was not Amalek because after that he became Yaakov Avinu angel. He defected. He deserted from Esav. I don't remember if it was Gabriel or something like that. One of these angels that Michael, yeah, could be, yeah. So yeah, so it was not Amalek. Amalek is also using the same thing that Amalek is planting doubts in us, right? שכורך בדרך, makes us cool, to cool off our faith. But this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to shake the foundation of the clarity of Yaakov Avinu in his faith. And similar to that, it says in the Kli Yakar, in the book, Ve'avek ishimo, he said he wanted to blind him, לסמא את עיני שכלו, like to blind the eyes of his wisdom with the dust. Right? You know, this trick, we see it so many times in the movie, in the old movies, right? Like when the villain is holding like some kind of a dust and he turned and throw it to the face of the good guy, right? And then he's getting blind, and then he know how to kick a karate. He's concentrate, he's closing his eyes, and then he know where exactly that fellow, and he hit him, right? So this is what the angel wanted to do. He wanted to blind Yaakov Avinu. And when it says, "V'omro ad alot hashachar," until dawn, ad velo ad bichlal, so until dawn and not further. Right? Because על ידי עלות השחר הכיר באמת כי יש לעולם בורא מנהיג. So it is if like suddenly that man or that angel that fighting Yaakov until dawn, because until dawn it's dark. And after dawn, suddenly he realized, oh, there is a creator, there is a leader to the world. Okay, why? Because Richat Hashemes, the sunrise, is testifying about the faith, that it shows everyone there is a creator to the world, right? Like it's like, again, it's a spiritual light, right? It's a clarity. Same thing we found with Avraham Avinu, שהכיר את בורו, that Hashem, like suddenly he know who is Hashem by looking at the sun, looking at the stars, at the moon, etc. And then he understood that somebody is controlling it, somebody created them. As it says in Yeshaya, "Asu marom enechem," elevated your eyes, v'reu miba'alem, and look, open your eyes and see who created all of these things. And by that, he acknowledged the reality, the existence of Hashem Yitbarach. Umavi b'shem Baal HaKedah, he said, to bring that our sage says in Masechet Yuma, אלמלא גלגל חמה, היה נשמע קולה של רומי. If it was without the sun, we will hear the voice of Rome. What does it mean? That the voice of Rome, like denying, chas v'chalila, the existence of Hashem. And the sun is actually a proof that there is Hashem who created the sun. And it's coming at daytime, going back at night, right, etc. The whole cycle. And that's the existence of Hashem. And without that, we would hear the voice of Romeo saying, denying there is a creator. And that was the main purpose of the war between the Saro shel Esav, לעלות אבק עד כיסא הכבוד, like to blur everything and to change the fate of Yaakov Avinu. וירא כי לא יכל לו, right? So he saw that he couldn't overcome Yaakov Avinu, and he was beating his thigh. And the explanation, when we explain, he said here, we explain in other places, מה שביארנו במקומות אחרים. כי יש שלוש מדרגות באמונה. There are three levels in faith, right? The lower one, the middle, and the top one. So there is emunat hamoach, right? The faith that is in our brain, in our sechel, that we acknowledging, we're understanding, we look at what's going on, and we are analyzing, we are assessing that there is no other option but to have a creator to create all of this. And nothing can actually appear out of nowhere, like one cell deciding to divide himself, right? And above that is the higher level, which is the emunat halev, which is the place of the emotion, right? I don't know how to explain you, I just know it. I don't know how to explain you, I have this faith, right? It's emotion. He said, even with your emotion, you feel the existence of Hashem. where it says in ביסוד העבודה, in that book, בשם הרב הצדיק רבי לב מדוקר, the Talmud of the Magid Mezerich, זכותו הגנון, he said שאמונת המוח רחוקה מאמונת הלב כרחוק שמיים וארץ, that the faith in our brain is distance, the distance between the faith in our brain to the faith in our heart is like heaven to earth, the longest distance, right? He said, and there is another level, the third one, which is the emunat ha'evarim, the limb, the body, that even the body, right, and we learn it so many times, we keep repeating it, that even the body understands and know there is Hashem, even if in your sechel and if your heart you don't believe or you don't think so, but the body will act accordingly, according to the Shulchan Aruch, according to the halachot. She said, even though when a person have a clarity in faith, מכל מקום ייתכן שכאשר נופל עליו כלב או שאר מיני פחדים, הרי נבהל מפניהם. Yes, we have a faith, right? So אמונה and ביטחון, what is אמונה and what is ביטחון? אמונה is that we have the faith. We have a faith in Hashem. We believe that Hashem will guard us, will protect us. Everything is for our good. But when we see a wild dog running to us, we're running away because we have a fear. Why? Because we are lacking the faith in the body. So, and it's not a completion, right? It's a lacking in emuna, because his body doesn't have the emuna of hashgacha pratit. And the perfection of emuna is when it's surrounding all our being, the heart, the brain, and the body. That's a clarity in emuna, that you really feeling that Hashem is standing and looking at us and know he knows our thoughts, everything. And we know that there is a judgment day, and there is the judge, there's a verdict and everything. So so he saw that Yaakov is very strong in his faith, right? He have a complete, right, an absolute faith. So he couldn't do anything, not even to bring up the dust in his heart and his sechel, right? And therefore he touches yarech, he touches thigh, which means, and the thigh is actually a nice word, to that body that, in the middle of the body, right? That organ that is near the thighs, right between. That's why he was touching him over there, when that place is actually belongs to different type of desires. And this is what it says, and it's emphasized again, twice, when he was struggling with him. Because he wanted to put that dust in that faith, which is related to the desire of immorality things. And therefore, that he put over there that doubts and that dust in that place of the Kedusha. And also he said, right? So the big forbidden thing that we were not allowed to do, he saw that he couldn't influence Yaakov Avinu. So he touched the thigh, which is the permissible thing, right? And Yaakov, right, or Akev, the word Ayin Kuf Bet, it's acronym for Kadesh Atzmecha B'Mutar, right? We learned it so many times that we should sanctify ourselves with the permissible thing. And the Torah is teaching us, והתורה מספרת שכל זה היה בעת ועיוורת ויעקב לבדו. When all of these things happen, when Yaakov was left alone, without his family, without the 12 tribes, to teach us that as long as Yaakov Avinu was together with the tribes, with his sons, right, then the Sitra Achra, the other side, could not harm him, could not fight with him. And also we found when Rachel giving birth to Yosef, then it says, "V'yomar Yaakov elavan, shalcheni v'elcha l'makom el artzi." Send me away, I want to go back to my place, I want to go back to my land. שלאחר שהיה ליעקב את יוסף עמו, so now Yaakov have the sons, and he have the strength of Yosef, which is Yosef is the midah of the Yesod, is like the antidote to Esav. Now Yaakov Avinu said, oh, now I have my army, I have my truth, let's go. So he was not afraid from Esav anymore. As it says, right, in Ovadia, in the Navi, it says, Vaya bet Yaakov esh, the house of Yaakov is fire, and the house of Yosef is the flame, and the house of Esav is the straw. So you're going to burn it to the dust. You say that when you have the fire, the flame, then the house of Esav is nothing. Just a straw in front of a fire. There's no chance. And it's burned like really quickly. Right? And therefore, as long as he was with Yosef, he was not afraid. But only when he was left alone, then Ve'avekishimu. You say all this struggle of Yaakov at the time to break the strength of the shell of the klipa of Lavan and Esav, he needed to have the protection of the plural of the rabbim, of his sons. And this is what it says when Lavan was running after Yaakov, Yomer Yaakov el Achiav, right, liktu avanim, gather stones. Why stones? And why Echav, his brother? Actually, it's his sons, right? Why it says brothers? Because it said brother is Lashon Ahava ve'yedidut, right? In the Israeli army, if you don't know somebody's name, you just said Achi, my brother, brother. Everybody is brother, right? So he said Lashon Ahava ve'yedidut, love and friendship. And he told them, gather the stone, my brother, like unite, be together. Because Lavan is Yechida de Klipa, is like also unite with the Klipa, with the negative things. And the fight against him have to be also in Achdut and the Kedusha, in unity. And therefore he called his brother, right, his son, he called them brother, so Itkashru imo, so they will connect with him, with the same, and with love and friendship. And by doing that, they will have the strength to overcome the shell of Lavan, because Lavan was running after them. And also when we found with Yosef, that in the time of the test with the wife of Potiphar, suddenly the impression, the portrait of his father looked to him, right? Like he said, oh, I'm not alone, I have my father. Yaakov is with me, right? My father. And that helped him. And the foundation in that, והיסוד שבכל זה שבכל הדינים וכוחות הסטרא אחא, אינם שולטים אלא על היחיד. So the evil inclination or the sitra achra, which is the external things, right? The external things, like the Satan, right? They appear only when we are alone, on the yachid, on the individual. But when we are connected to the congregation, to the tzibur, and a chevruta, right, of people that yirei Hashem, like charedim, right, then they cannot control, they cannot harm him. And connecting ourselves to the tzibur, it's a shmira, it's a protection in the spiritual thing and in the gashmiut, right? As it said, the Rav HaKadosh Mikali Zechotaganu, he said, quoting from Chazal, על מי שיש לו איסורים יודע צרו לרבים ורבים מבקשים על הרחמים. Somebody that suffer, you have problems, troubles, issues, you should tell to the people, to the congregation, and many people will ask mercy on him, right? ורבים מבקשים עליו רחמים. שלא נאמר יבקשו, אלא מבקשים. יבקשו, it's in the past, but he said no, מבקשים, like it's ongoing, because he said, just the fact that he notified his issue to the rabbim, that they actually feel and they're participating in his tsar. So etzem koach harabim mamtik kol hadinim. So the strength of the people together, the tzibur, sweetening the judgment, and then the mercies will come by default. And similar to that, it says in Maral, legabe egla rufa, right? So when they found a dead body, and they're not sure who killed him, etc. They're measuring the distance between the cities, and the city that actually is the closest. Then the elders are coming, and they said, right, they're taking an egla, and they cut it from the neck, right? They're spilling the blood, and nothing will grow over there in that area. And the elder says, "Yadenu lo shafru et hadam hazeh." We didn't spill the blood. Of course, they are not murderer, but how come they can say that? So they say, our sages say, no, of course they didn't spill his blood, but when they sent him away to his journey without Levaya, with no somebody to be with him, to escort him, to show everyone that that guy is not alone, it is if like they spilled the blood. Patru below Levaya. Right? And explain that when a person is individual only for himself alone and is not connected to the congregation, then the dinim are starting to overcome. And then it's shayach, right? And then it's happened that he will die. And the levaya, right? Levaya is not only funeral. Levaya is escorting somebody, being together with him. The levaya, we are escorting the body, right? So he said when he was alive, if we would go and send somebody with him, he will be still alive. But because he was left alone, he died. And that's why they say, no, we didn't do that. We didn't know. If we were there, we would do that. And according to that, this inyan, מה שדווקא אצל יעקב מצינו, right, שנלחם עם לבן ועשיו, that he was fighting with Lavan and Esav, we didn't find with Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak. They didn't have this fight. Yeah, they have the war of Abraham with the king, but that was like a gashmiut war, not a spiritual. כיוון שרק ליעקב היה את שבטי קו, right, only Yaakov Avinu have the tribes, he have the sons, and therefore he had the strength of the rabbim, and therefore he could break these two klipot, these two shells, which were very difficult, which was Esav and Lavan. Right? And especially when it says, Vivater Yaakov levado, when he was left alone, the Torah is teaching us that was the only time that Yaakov Avinu was alone, and immediately the situ achad, the evil inclination, whatever, the external negative thing, were fighting him. And that's teaching us that we should always be, connected to the tzibur, and I think that we're going to stop here.
It's good. It's good.
And second part, Bezrat Hashem on Thursday.